Fancy living in Spain? Join the Language and Culture Assistance Program of the Education Office of the Spanish Embassy. It offers a fantastic opportunity to spend a school year in Spain as an assistant teacher, sharing your language and knowledge with Spanish students K through 12 and adults.
Con ella aprender inglés es estupendo. Chloe es la mejor.
I got medical insurance and a monthly allowance to help pay for accommodation and expenses, and I really think that this experience will help with my career in the future.
Spain also offers you amazing travel and cultural possibilities.
I couldn't have imagined this was going to be such a life-changing experience.
And what about the food?
And the lively streets.
And the wonderful people.
Yo he mejorado mucho mi español.
Don't miss this opportunity. Learn more about the Language and Culture Assistance Program of the Education Office of the Embassy of Spain.
And grow as you share.
So hello, everybody. And first and foremost, thank you so much for attending today's webinar. Before we start with the presentation, we're going to watch a video where our counselor, Dr. Jesus Fernandez, is going to share with us a few words of encouragement and gratitude.
Hello, Nalcap participants across the United States, Canada, or wherever you may be today. My name is Jesus Fernandez. I am the Education Counselor of Spain for the US and Canada. I lead a team of around 50 people in both countries whose mission is to encourage international education between Spain and North America, promoting Spanish language and Hispanic cultures in the US and Canada, and the English language and the cultures of the US and Canada in Spain. This is why in 2005 we started this program, the North American Language and Culture Assistance Program, to bring native speakers of English to our elementary, middle, and high schools in Spain, so that they would help our local Spanish teachers of English in making a subject, English, more than just another course in the curriculum. That is what you were about to do. To go to Spain, to disembark in a big city or in a small village, to go into school and to be the protagonist of a movie called An American, a Canadian, teaching English or French in Spain. I'm sure the kids in the schools are going to be thrilled by your presence. For some of them, you may even be the first native speaker or French speaker they get in contact with. They'll be curious about your pronunciation, about new words they can learn from you. They may even want to know four-letter words, but these are not for you to teach. But more important than vocabulary and grammar, and they are definitely important, is showing them that languages are to be used to ask for things, to flatter someone, to apologize, to chat about sports or music, to express gratitude or disbelief, to do millions of things. Languages are not just verbs, nouns, prepositions. Languages are the way we express feelings, show doubts, agree and disagree. Languages are tools to do things. On top of that, languages grow in certain cultural settings, and these kids will want to know about the US and Canada, about Thanksgiving and the NBA, about movies and singers, about cities and fashion. You will be the door that leads them inside your home countries. I'm also sure that you're going to enjoy a wonderful personal and professional experience. First, you will improve your Spanish language skills by being immersed in an all-around Spanish setting. But remember, you will have to be proactive. You do not learn a language just by breathing Spanish air. You will have to pay attention to new words, new expressions, ways of doing things by means of the language. Please write things down. Don't be afraid to speak up. Make mistakes. Learn from them. Keep it up. Second, you're going to go through, even endure new cultural experiences, different food, different ways of doing things, different ways of life. Some will surely appeal to you. Some may be a bit strange. My only advice is to have an open mind, understand that different does not necessarily mean better or worse, and enjoy every single minute of your stay in Spain. Finally, I would also like to thank my team for their excellent work. I'm really proud of you all, and I would like to mention especially Yolanda Zarate and Josu Baque for leading the Nalcap group so steadily. Thank you also to all the Nalcap group, especially to Lisa, who will be leaving us, and to all my team at the Education Office of Spain in the United States and Canada. Thank you so much, and get ready for the adventure.
Thank you, Jesus, for your wonderful welcoming remarks, for your encouragement, and of course, for all your support. So now, before we start with the part one of the presentation, I'm going to introduce my fellow advisors, but also our interns and a special guest we have today, Jane Stry. So we have Josu Baque, who's in LA. Hello, Josu. How are you? We have Luis Suarez in Seattle, Washington State. Hello, Luis. Also, Eliseo in Houston. Hello, Eliseo. And we're going to move on to our interns, the present and past Nalcappers or Oxes. Gretchen Rudolph, how are you, Gretchen? She's in Ohio at the moment. Hello, Madeleine Hernandez in California. And last but not least, of course, April. April, hello, how are you? April is in Spain. And our special guest, Jane Stry. Hello, Jane, how are you? So hello, everyone. Okay, so thank you, everyone, for joining us today. And I'm going to launch my presentation. I will ask you to let me know in the chat if you can see it properly, and that will be the first part of the webinar. Okay, so there we go. Just 1 second. Well, everything's going okay here. Great. So can you please let me know if you see my screen? You can write in the chat. Yes, perfect. Okay. So this is the very beginning of the presentation. So hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. Welcome to the long-awaited 2024 pre-departure Nalcap webinar. Are you all set? So if you are, buckle up and let's get ready to take off. Today's webinar will be split into 3 parts. In part 1, I'm going to address a few general topics that you should keep in mind. For the second part, we'll pass it over to our interns who are past and present language assistants. They have gone through the whole experience. So what they tell you here today is going to be extremely valuable, priceless information for sure. And finally, in part 3, we'll take some questions from the Q&A section. We have chosen the topics mainly from the questions you sent in when you registered for this webinar, but also from our email account. There are, of course, thousands of other questions. They're all important and very relevant. But for many of those, there is information either in the documents on our website, or you need to contact and address to other offices, especially your regional education office. Once you get your placement, your questions should be addressed to them. By the way, you have the contact details for our regional offices on our website. Besides, please make sure that you contact the consulates for any questions concerning visa issues or matters. For your information, over 4,600 placements have been assigned so far this year. As of today, the figure is actually, to be precise, 4,686 placements. For those of you who didn't receive a placement yet, bear in mind that sometimes applicants withdraw from the program. So there is still a chance of receiving a placement. Do not get discouraged. Please note that this webinar is going to be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel. Can anyone please put the link in the chat? Okay, so in the chat, here you have it, is the link for our YouTube channel. Thank you so much. In any case, we will be sending out an email with the link for the recording. So if you miss something, do not panic. You can always rewatch it as many times as you need, and you will get all the information. Our interns who participate in today's webinar will be discussing 6 big topics. And as you can see on the screen, the topics are cell phones and the internet, bank accounts, housing, the NIE, TIE, and also the quota, known in Spanish as cupo, that we will explain later on what it means, transportation, and finally, last but not least, school, class prep, and a typical day. Once we finish discussing the 6 topics, we will take a few questions from the team's Q&A section. So please make sure you write your questions in the Q&A section, not in the chat, okay? And now let's begin. We will try to answer as many questions as possible, but you have to understand that it is impossible to address them all since we have received thousands of questions. Because of it, feel free to send us an email, and that way we could answer your personal questions with all the updated information required. I would like to start by explaining the different offices involved in the Nalcap program. I believe this will provide clarification about whom to reach out to if you have questions or encounter roadblocks along the way. So as you can see on the screen there, the Education Office of the Embassy of Spain, also the Ministry of Education of Spain, then the regional offices, which are extremely important when you're placed in one of them. In Spanish, they will refer to them as comunidades autónomas, and the schools where you are placed, okay? So I don't know if you know this, but Nalcap, our program, is just one part of the program that brings language assistance over to Spain. Nalcap is the name given to the program both in the US and Canada, but you will see that there are over 30 countries involved with different languages. And I'm going to explain in 3 different groups all the offices involved. First of all, as regards visas. Visas are handled by many different offices. The American offices, also by the consulates of Spain in the US and Canada, and by the Oficina de Extranjería once you're in Spain. We know that this can be a little bit frustrating and even overwhelming process because there are many different offices involved and a lot of paperwork that you have to deal with. Please note that over 40,000 American and Canadian citizens have participated in the program, and you will get to Spain as well. So don't despair. As for the American offices, they handle the background check and the apostille. Maybe you're wondering, what is the apostille? The apostille is the legalization of the background check. The background check doesn't seem to be experiencing delays in process, but the apostille is. Please note that the apostille takes a few weeks to be ready, and occasionally the procedure may experience delays. To try and get around this, once you send the apostille paperwork in, reach out to your congressperson or senator's office. Why? Because we have been told that most of them will help you expedite the apostille. Now moving on to the second group of offices, the consulates of Spain. Each of them have different requirements and timelines as well. Reach out to them if you have questions. At present, some of them have outsourced to a company called BLS, except for San Francisco and Puerto Rico. So the consulate website will tell you if they have outsourced or not. Make sure you read the information carefully and thoroughly. The information on your consulate website, as they will note if BLS is involved. The links to the consulate websites can be found under our section known as Applying for a Visa section that you can find on the Nalcap website. Can someone please put the link in the chat now? Thank you. So reach out to BLS directly for questions via email, not their call center. They're having some glitches, which is pretty normal, as they're just beginning to navigate this process. We're working hand in hand with them to try and resolve any possible issues as soon as possible. Some of you have written telling us that BLS has asked for your accommodation in Spain. That is not necessary for an Nalcap visa, but if they insist, you can give them your school address. Also, make sure you take a printed copy of your appointment confirmation email to BLS, just in case. Almost all the consulates will issue your NIE or your NIE, which is a number that is needed for your residency card once in Spain. It can be found on your visa. If your consulate doesn't provide this, no worries. You will get it in Spain when you apply for your TIE or your TIE, which comes to be your residency card. Please don't leave for Spain without your visa. You can't not get a visa in Spain, and you're going to need it to be legal in the country, even if you hear other information. This is the information that the consulates have provided us with. And also, this is very important as well, don't buy your airplane ticket until you have your visa. Or buy a ticket which allows you to change the dates. You never know when you're going to receive your visa, and we have seen cases when right on the day of the flight, people didn't have their visas and lost that flight. So please bear this in mind. Finally, the Oficina de Extranjería. Once you're in Spain, you will need to apply for your TIE residency card, your TIE. You need your TIE to be legal the entire 8 or 9 months that you will be in our country as a Nalcap participant. Gretchen will be explaining more on this later on in the second part. Let's cover now some general topics, and also I will refer to our Nalcap website. All the information on the program and about the program can be found on our website, Nalcap Spain. Can someone just put the link to our website in the chat? Thank you. On the website, we have a Contact Us section with all the contact information for the different offices involved in the program, except for the consulates, which are on the Nalcap website applying for a visa section. So it's a different section and a different segment, okay? And also we have a section which is known as what to expect in Spain, which is the one I'm going to refer to right now. So when you get to our section tagged as what to expect in Spain, you're going to find extremely useful information on what to expect once you are in Spain. It definitely comes in handy. This information is provided by the Ministry of Education of Spain, and it covers several contents and topics such as language assistance guidelines, description of tasks, also sample classroom activities, which come in very useful, engaging, and motivating as well. And also, finally, important information for once you arrive in Spain. This information is updated every year, so please definitely take a look at the section of the website as soon as possible and get familiar with it. But we know you're wondering all the information for what we get to Spain, but what about before going to Spain? What can we do? What type of paperwork we should gather, etc. So first and foremost, and this is extremely important, contact your school as soon as you get the name of it. Remember that your school will be on your letter of acceptance. Always establish a good rapport with them from the very beginning. They can be very helpful with issues such as housing, your TIE, and many other aspects of for you to settle there. Schools may be closed in July and August, so be patient with them. Moving on to the second aspect here, which is the stipends. Please note that you will not be receiving your first stipend until the first week of November, because they are sent out on a monthly basis, not every 2 weeks like here. So you will be getting to Spain in mid or late September, and you will be a language assistant starting in October, but will not receive the grant until November. Also, randomly, some regional education offices may experience administrative issues which can delay the stipends. Please make sure you take to Spain enough money to cover your initial expenses through December. You will have many at the very beginning, such as rental deposits. All this information is on our website and in the documents you can find there. Most assistants leave with about $3,000, but you know that this is very personal and depends on each person's spending habits. But also, it depends on where you're placed. Needless to say that if you are in a small town, things are obviously cheaper than in big cities. For example, if you are in Madrid, Barcelona, or Valencia. Medication. Careful attention here, please. This is very important as well. If you happen to have a chronic illness, we strongly recommend taking your medication with you, especially for the first months until you find your bearings. For example, asthma inhalers are very expensive. Your medical insurance does not cover medication, but they are usually much cheaper than in the US and Canada. In general, your insurance covers all doctor's visits and hospitalization, and in some cases, dental and vision expenses as well. You will have to check this with your regional education office for that information, usually provided once you are in Spain. Moving now on to telephones. Unlock your phone before leaving so that you can put a Spanish SIM card once you get there. More on that later from Madeleine, one of our interns today. And finally, aspect or point number 5, your role as a language assistant. Your school will be assigning you a mentor to guide you and help you at your school. Go to them if you are experiencing any issues. As to your role, you are not a teacher. I repeat, you're not a teacher. You are there to support the teacher, not to be or become the teacher. That's why you should not be left alone with an entire class of students. You should not be responsible for grading or talking to parents. In the unlikely event that you encounter difficulties, please discuss this with your coordinator or principal. If this doesn't work, to escalate, contact your regional education office. And please remember, always use the target language, be it English for the US language assistance, or in the case of Canada, that could be English or French, depending on your placement. Remember that you are language and culture ambassadors, and you are true role models for the students. Now, a note on the documents we recommend you to make copies of and take to Spain. Make sure you make 3 or 4 copies of each of these documents even before you hand them in with your visa application. Sometimes they are needed, sometimes they are not, but just in case, remember, it's very important that you take this into consideration. So, copies of your passport with the information and the visa page, of course. Your medical certificate used for your visa application. Your background check, also used for the visa application. Your placement letter, known in Spanish as Carta de Nombramiento. Your vaccination card, and please make sure is valid and updated, even including the boosters that you had. And any other documents your school or your regional education has asked you for. Just a reminder here, the webinar is being recorded, so you will have access to all the information, so you could watch it again as many times as you need and take notes. And that's why it's important that you watch it as many times so that you can have everything clear. Okay, and now we're moving to pets. Our beloved and endearing tiny and not so tiny creatures. If you're thinking of taking pets, please give it careful consideration. It's not easy to find housing with pets, but of course, that is up to you and a very personal decision. We have some videos posted on TikTok and Instagram on this subject. And also, if you write to our email, we can provide you with some further information. And now let's refer to our social media. Nalcap has social media accounts on TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Follow us for the most updated information. The handle is @NalcapSpain. Also, we would like to take this opportunity to thank those administrators for Facebook or Reddit groups and other social media accounts and blogs that are incredibly helpful with sharing experiences about the program. And of course, to the people who participate on them as well for sharing. Thank you for the enormous contribution that you make to the program and how much you help the participants. I'm going to refer now, we're towards the end of part 1, which is the presentation. So I'm going to refer to our celebrated podcasts. So the Ox Life by Nalcap on Spotify. The podcasts for season 1, 2, and 3 are already up. Please listen to our podcasts. There is so much information you can find on there. You will hear from language assistants who have gone through the process, offering advice and telling you all about their different experiences and anecdotes. We have podcast episodes about living in a small town, about the charm of the Spanish pueblos, about culture shock, perspectives from language assistants and the teachers they work with, but also about food, about fiestas, and about love. And breaking news here, our season 4 is going to be out tomorrow. So please don't miss it out. So this is the end of part 1, which is the presentation. And before we move to the second part, where our interns are going to explain and talk about the 6 different topics, also remember to follow our education office of the Embassy of Spain, also the UAEE, which is our Unidad de Acción Educativa en el Exterior, and our Ministry of Education. You have the links for them all on our website. And in case you need further information, you can always get in touch with us, and we are more than happy to provide you with the links. So now we're moving to the second part, where our interns are going to explain the 6 topics you mentioned earlier. So there we have them. So it's going to be April. Hello, April. How are you? Gretchen, and also Madeleine. And before they start developing and talking about their topics, I will ask them to introduce themselves. So take it away, April, for example. Thank you.
Hi, I'm April. I am from Canada and I was in Madrid. Today I will be talking about bank accounts and your day-to-day at school.
Perfect. Thank you. Gretchen, your turn, please.
Hi, I'm Gretchen. I am currently in Columbus, Ohio, and I was placed in Cartagena in the region of Murcia. And today I will be talking about transportation in the NIE and TIE.
Thank you very much. And last but not least, Madeleine, please, would you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, I'm Madeline. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I was placed in Madrid. And I'll be talking about setting up your phone and Wi-Fi and also my housing experience.
Okay, thank you so much. So if you remember, the very first topic we're going to cover, one of the big 6 topics, is telephones and the internet. So Madeleine, whenever you're ready, please take it away.
Yes, so the first thing I did was I contacted my home carrier and asked if my phone is unlocked. So what that means is essentially that you'll be able to switch it out for a Spanish SIM card when you get to Spain very easily. But if it's locked, then you're unable to. So usually if you buy your phone from Apple or not your carrier, it's unlocked, so there's no issue there. But if you buy your phone from your carrier and it's not completely paid off, or if it's part of a plan, it might be locked. And you can talk to your carrier about your options. So it's really important that you check and see what that is. And another option is if it's locked. I had a friend that this happened to, and she had realized when she was already in Spain, she had to buy an Android phone. So she had 2 phones. So that's also a route that you can take when you get to Spain. Another thing that you should talk to your carrier about is your options for an international plan. So those first few days when you arrive, if you have coverage, things like that, so you're prepared until you're able to get your phone set, your Spanish SIM card dealt with. And then another thing that I asked my carrier was how to keep my US phone number. Um, and so the answer I got there was just keep paying my plan, which is what I did. I was on a family plan. I just wouldn't use the SIM card because that would cause international roaming charges all the time. So, but just for those initial few days. But another option that I learned about when I got to Spain, but I didn't do, a lot of people use Google Voice to port their phone numbers. So you can definitely look into that as well, but that's something you would have to do in your respective country, not when you get to Spain. So that would be beforehand. So that's also an option. And then when I got to Spain, so I found out that there were 4 big carriers, Vodafone, Orange, Movistar, and Yoigo. And I went with Vodafone. And there's also an option to do prepaid or contract. And so essentially, prepaid pay as you go on a monthly basis. Contract is more of a fixed term, and the minimum duration is typically 12 months. So I opted for prepaid. Um, and I paid 20 euros a month for a 100 GB plan. This included roaming in EU and a few other countries, so this was really easy when I was traveling as well. There was nothing I had to do, no extra charges there. There is even a cheaper option for 15 euros for 50 GB, which is what a lot of people I knew did as well. And also, you're not necessarily locked in when you go the prepaid route, so you can change your plan. You can start at 50 GB and go up from there if you find out that you need more data. But a lot of places have Wi-Fi, so this brings me into setting up your own Wi-Fi. Um, this is typically done after, you secure your apartment. The main providers are the same as the telephone ones, so Movistar, Orange, Vodafone, and Yoigo. And to set that up, I went in person as well to the office and explained my needs. Some of the documents I needed were my NIE and TIE, passport, employment contract, and I also needed my Spanish phone number. So a lot of things that you'll be doing, you'll need your Spanish phone number. So I definitely recommend that's one of the first things you do. Um, and then I signed a 1-year contract at Orange for that. And that was 33 euros a month. And I split it between 3 people at my apartment. and we never had any issues. Someone came and installed it relatively quickly. So no issues there. But since it was a contract, there was a cancellation fee at the end. So if you did do the contract route with your phone, there might be a cancellation fee if you wanted to end it before 12 months too. So that's something to consider. But yeah, that's everything for phone and Wi-Fi.
Well, thank you, Madeleine, for the excellent and thorough explanation. April or Gretchen, would you like to add anything else here?
Yes, I would like
Gretchen?
to add quickly, and I see some questions in the chat about this, is phones that do not have physical SIMs. I believe iPhone 14 and 15 do not. My roommate had this situation, and what she ended up doing was I had brought an old iPhone 6S with me, and she used that card with the cheapest prepaid plan possible just to get the Spanish phone number. And then she was using her regular phone for everything else, but she had that physical SIM in this old phone just to have the phone number to be able to use that number for banking, for procedural things. So if you do have a brand new iPhone, but you have an older one, or you know someone that does, I highly recommend doing that.
Okay, thank you. You see, that's very extremely useful information because it's based on your experience or some other Nalcappers as well, and it comes in very, very handy. Anything else you'd like to add here, or shall we move to the second big topic, which is bank accounts? So April is going to take care of that. April, are you ready? Yeah. So
Hi,
the floor is
yes.
yours.
Thank you. So, bank accounts, I already saw a couple questions about it in the chat, but I would like to talk a little bit about how to prepare yourself before coming to Spain and then getting a bank account in Spain. Before coming to Spain, I saw some people asking how much savings they should bring. That it depends on each person and how much and their lifestyle and how much they're planning to spend. Um, in terms of bringing those savings to Spain, as you know, you can bring up to, I believe, $10,000 cash, like on the plane. I would recommend instead of transferring your money from the US account to once you get a Spanish bank account, to either take the money out at an ATM in Spain because they will charge you a fee and they'll charge you the currency fees. But a lot of banks charge a fee to receive money from international transfers. So not only depending on your US or Canadian bank, maybe the US and Canadian bank charge a fee or they don't charge a fee for you to send money to Spain, but a lot of Spanish banks will also charge, for example, Sabadell charges 0.35% to receive money. And they usually have a minimum. So for example, I just spoke to Sabadell. They charge me 0.35% with a minimum of 18 euros. So essentially, if I'm sending less than around 5,100 euros, I'll be like losing money, you know? So weigh your options on how you're going to get your savings to Spain. I recommend either bringing cash and then depositing it into your bank once you get a bank, or withdrawing cash and then depositing it, or you can use other services like Wise to send your money that have maybe lower transfer fees. But once you are in Spain, you are going to need to get a Spanish bank account. There are many options. You can go with like a typical brick or mortar bank like Sabadell, Santander, BBVA, La Caixa. These are kind of like the big banks, or you can go the online route. But the most important thing is that you get an IBAN. An IBAN is your like bank account number, and this bank account number is what you're going to give to your school on your first day so that they know where to deposit your stipend. There are many options for pros and cons for a brick and mortar bank and also for an online bank. Personally, I prefer opening an online bank. That I do have a Sabadell account and I also have another account with another bank called N26. It was very easy. Some banks ask for NIE To open your bank account, some banks only ask for your passport. With N26, you can open a bank account with just your passport number. It's pretty user-friendly. You can put in your address and then change it after, once you get an apartment. And you don't run the risk of, for example, staying more than one school year in the program. Say, for example, you do the 2 years. Some bigger banks, some of the brick and mortar banks, when your NIE expires, because it's valid normally from October to June, they will lock your account. And that's kind of like the main reason that I switched from Sabadell to N26. Other things about banking in Spain, there is a similar to Venmo or Cash App in the US, there is something called Bizum, which is associated with your phone number. So once you get a phone and once you get your phone number, you can easily send money to your friends. And it's like instant. There are I did see someone in the chat say to bring a credit card and with no currency fees or transactional fees that they can use abroad. That's also a good option. And yes, do you need to find housing or have an address before you can open a bank account? I was able to open a bank account before having a physical address. I used the school address. So you can use your passport and your school address. And I think, someone said, what's the app called again? It's not an app, it's called Bizum. So most banks, for example, all of the big banks have this service called Bizum that links your account with your phone number. And then you can just send, for example, if you have my phone number, you can input my phone number into your bank and then they'll just send me an instant transfer. Which bank allowed you to do that, April? Sorry. Most big banks, but the one that I use is N26. N26 is a German bank that gives you a Spanish IBAN. So that's very important for your payments here in Spain.
Okay. Thank you, April. Outstanding clarifications. And you referred and mentioned very useful tips, which I bet they're going to appreciate a lot. Gretchen or Madeleine, would you like to add anything as regards money, bank accounts, transactions, tips? No? Okay, so the third big topic is housing, how to find accommodation in Spain, right? Which is going to be covered by Madeleine, but right before she explains everything and she's going to give us tips, we're going to watch a brief video about apartment hunting. So thank you for the video. There were some websites that we will refer to later on. In any case, feel free to reach us out by email and we can provide you with them as well. So Madeleine, are you ready now to let us know and share with us some tips about how to find accommodation in Spain? Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll share my experience. So first off, please do not sign a contract or send money before seeing a place in person. There are a lot of videos and things like that that look very convincing, but you need to be careful of scams. So that's my first disclaimer. And then the first thing I did was I decided to look for roommates because I was like, I don't want to do this alone. So it's you perfectly can't do that, but I really wanted to find someone who wanted to go on the hunt with me. So I looked through Facebook groups, things like Oxes in Madrid, 2324, expats in Madrid, international students in Madrid, things like that. and then I went to WhatsApp groups from that. So some of these pages have associated WhatsApp groups that you can use. And so I just ended up sending a message in the WhatsApp chat um, if anyone was looking for a roommate. And I got a few responses, and I decided to go into it with one person. And so we had booked an Airbnb um, in an area that we were both interested in as well. And so I actually ended up getting my visa a little later than I thought. So we had booked it for 2 weeks, but I got there the second week. So my roommate was there 2 weeks. But I think 2 weeks would have been an appropriate amount of time. It's just that delay that created a bit of an issue. So it ended up taking another half a week. Um, so I would definitely recommend, I think 2 weeks is a substantial amount of time to look for housing in Madrid at least. And then also if you don't have a roommate already, there's hostels, hotels, there's a lot of options for housing or for temporary accommodation at least. And then also, if you don't have your visa yet, maybe looking into refundable options as well is a great idea too. Um, so another thing I also did before arriving to Spain was just researching location, different neighborhoods, if I wanted to live in the city center, if I wanted to live by my school. It really is a personal preference. It will be more expensive living in the city center. And I mean, you'll be further too. My commute ended up being an hour. I did choose to live in the city center, but a way to help that was also looking at what transportation you're close to, because there's definitely easier ways to get to a school and harder neighborhoods to get to wherever your school is. Mine was in the south, and I was by a train that went practically directly to my school. So it was a very easy commute for me. And I got lucky, but I definitely did pay a premium to live in the city. So again, personal preference. But maybe make a list of your top 5 neighborhoods, things like that. And like the video said, contact your school, see if they have any recommendations as well. Um, yeah, so that was what I was able to do before. And then upon arrival, um, the main website I used was idealista.com. That was what I pretty much only used, and Facebook as well. So there's options again. If it's just you can rent a room, or if you have maybe a group, you can rent a whole apartment. So there's 2 ways that you can go about it. Um, so I just made a spreadsheet with places in the neighborhoods we were looking at and my price point, and just went contacting from there on WhatsApp, writing a great detailed message in Spanish. I think got me a lot more responses. And then if you speak Spanish, that's great. You can call as well. Make sure you have your Spanish phone number for that. Um, so, and then there's also Facebook groups. So again, if you don't already have roommates, maybe people got there before you and they're looking for someone to fill that room. If they got maybe a 3-person apartment or a 3-bedroom or something like that. So keep an eye out for that as well. Because that's also might be an easier option. They already have it. So you can just join on that. And then another thing was, so I ended up paying I had a 3-bedroom with 3 roommates in the heart of the city, which was a really great experience and I loved it. Um, and let's see what else. Oh, you do need your Spanish bank account for this to pay your deposit and your monthly payments, and your utilities and your Wi-Fi. And so the documents you also need is your TA and NIE, passport and employment contract. Um, so I literally carried copies of my documents to every tour I went to. That was how I did it. And also, it's a lot easier to go to tours before you start at the school. So definitely I would recommend those 2 weeks beforehand. And that's pretty much it. Utilities are seasonal. I don't think I ever paid more than 30 euros for my part between the three of us. So definitely affordable as well.
Okay, Madeleine, thank you so much. As she was mentioning, there are remarkable differences whether you're living like in a small pueblo or a town in Spain or in a big city. Yeah, any April or Gretchen, would you like to add something here as when it comes to accommodation and prices? Yeah, Gretchen?
Yes.
April, you can go first.
Thanks. Um, I do think that Gretchen has a better understanding of what it's like to live in a smaller town. But just a couple quick tips for you guys when you are calling and looking at these apartments. Like Madeline said, it's great to have a Spanish number so that you can call. Idealista has a like notifications option, so you can get notified every time there's a new apartment. I recommend to call, save the person's number on WhatsApp with the address, like Juan, calle, blah, 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 once, and then don't forget to ask the portal, piso, and like the number, because these are things that I forgot, and you're calling like 20 people a day. And you can easily forget which apartment you're supposed to go to. You can easily forget, oh, what is the apartment number? Is it tercero A or was it segundo D? And just writing it in your WhatsApp when you save the number and you write the name of the person, I found helped me quite a lot. Another thing, quick culture shock, the second floor. The first floor is on the second floor. The second floor is on the third floor in Europe. So if you're looking for an apartment that's like 3D, you're going to the third floor. Another quick thing, a lot of these older buildings, you have to press a button to exit, and sometimes it's hard to find the button. So just keep an eye out when you're starting to look for these apartments. As for smaller pueblos, my cousin was placed in a small pueblo and he reached out to his school and his school helped him find accommodation immediately. So he had a place to live already set up from his pueblo mom, and his like school and the principals set him up real well. So like that's also a good thing with pueblos. But again, Gretchen probably has a better experience, like firsthand experience, because she was placed in Cartagena.
Yes, so Cartagena, I would call it a small city. I think the population was around 200,000. So for reference, I'm actually from Toledo, Ohio, and it was about the same size as that. So for me, my roommate and I were really lucky. We had a place that we scoped out online before we even got there. We got there, we contacted them, we toured that one, and that's the one we ended up with. So I spent 3 nights in a hostel and then 2 nights in a hotel with who became my roommate. So I know in bigger cities it might sound really overwhelming and a huge process, and I want everyone to not be scared thinking that everything is that difficult, because even again in a small city it was relatively straightforward. We were messaging in Spanish, and I think that helps, and we were really proactive about things. We contacted people as soon as we got there, but like we've been saying, make sure you wait until you get there so you can scope out kind of where you want to be, where the good areas are, so you can see everything in person. I know that one of my friends ended up pretty far out kind of on accident because she booked something ahead of time. And for a price reference as well, I was paying $375 for my portion, and I thought the apartment was great. I did not know of anyone that paid more than me in my city, but it was a great location, a great apartment. So yeah. And then also the people who were working outside of the city, instead of living in the pueblos of Cartagena, they were living in the city center. But I can see that differs by where you are.
Okay, thank you very much to the three of you. And as they were emphasizing, always establish a good rapport with your school from the very beginning, because they can be extremely helpful and useful when it comes to looking for accommodation or taking care of some other paperwork. Okay, so thank you so much. Now we're going to move on to NIE and TIE. And right after to transportation, both topics are going to be explained by Gretchen. So Gretchen, whenever you feel ready, we can start with NIE, TIE, and also the quora, and I will explain what is the cupo as well. Okay, are you ready?
Yes, I'm going to share my screen because this is a complex process, especially for NIE and TIE. So, and I believe this will be shared with you all afterwards with the links and everything. So don't panic trying to get everything copied. So basically, the NIE is your identification number. So think N for number. It's just your number. And that should be on your visa when you get it. I believe it's on the left or the right-hand side when you are looking at it. It's tiny, says NIE, and that is your number. Now, the TA is the physical identification card. And I will show you mine. Don't steal my information. But this is what my card looked like. So this is what you will get in Spain. Your visa is only valid for 90 days. So you need to get this physical TA card as soon as possible. So you are going to schedule an appointment for this, a cita, by accessing this website. Now, I'm not going to click through the process right now because you typically need a VPN to access this if you are trying to do it from the US. And even at that, it still might be blocked. So do not panic if you cannot get this website to work. It's not broken. You just have to be in Spain usually to make it work. So as soon as you get to Spain, though, start working on this process and looking for appointments. So it goes through step by step, what to click on, what not to click on. If you have done this before, there is a new step involving a clave. And for this, as you are creating this account, we are going to do sin clave. So this is something different. It is new. Even as I was going through it, I had to evaluate what this was. Go through everything and book your appointment. Now, it is important. It is hard to get appointments, especially in bigger cities. Even for me, in a smaller city, it took a while. They usually release appointments at a given day, given time. They dump out a bunch, and then everyone goes and grabs them. So a lot of times in our regional chat, people would post and say, hey, everyone, appointments got added. Go check them out. People would grab the appointments, and then we'd wait until next Friday. So be persistent with this. It might take a while. So there are multiple things that you need to bring with you, and some of them you can prepare before you go. So these are these items here. So your carta, your acceptance letter, which you all should be receiving or have received. A foto de carnet, which is like your visa photo, but the sizing is a little bit different. So I actually recommend getting a new one taken in a photo booth in Spain. That way you guarantee it's the right size. I believe you got a printout of 6 small ones and 2 bigger ones for maybe €7, and you just go sit in this little photo booth. They're all around the city, and you only need to take one. So then we had a bunch of leftovers, and my friends and I were like trading them like trading cards, and I had all my friends on my fridge. So I think the photo booth is the way to go. Copies of all the pages of your passport, your actual passport, and then this EX17 is essentially like the application form. Now, once you get to Spain, you will have to pay a tax. Mine, I believe, was around €16, but it should be no more than 20. So to do this, you will fill out this other form, print it out, and there's a barcode on it that you will use to scan either at a bank or at an ATM. When you print it, make sure the entire document prints. There's crucial information at the very bottom of it that got cut off in my PDF, and I had to run back and forth between the print store and the bank. So make sure you have all of the information when you print it. I recommend paying this at the bank. I thought it was more straightforward. Just be cognizant of the bank hours. Some people paid them at ATMs, but it was a little bit more difficult, and there was discrepancy over whether the ATM has to be the same business as your bank. So I just recommend doing it in person. Confirmation of your appointment, and then certificado de empadronamiento. So essentially what this is a document that verifies where you are living. So once you rent your apartment, you can go to the town hall, ayuntamiento, to register your apartment. Now, I was not asked to show this at my appointment. It took about a month to process, and my appointment was before I had gotten it back. Some people were asked to show it. I was not. So I would err on the side of caution and at least be in the process of getting one. But if you do have your TA appointment before you have received back your empadronamiento, still go for the appointment and hope for the best. Now, your TA will be ready to pick up between 30 and 45 days after your appointment. Mine was ready sooner than that, but again, that might be small city things. When you finish the paperwork at your appointment, they will give you a lote number that tells you essentially just what number you are in the process. In my police station, they had a sign on the wall that said, "We are on number 57." And so Oxes who went in after me would send in the chat, "Hey guys, they're on 57 today. So if your number's before that, I guess yours is ready." I do not think I was notified when it was ready, so I just had to keep an eye out. You can also visit this website here, and there are steps where you can look up this lote number. And if your number is before that, your TA is ready. You will have to book another appointment to go pick it up, but you will follow steps 1 through 10 from above, but select a different thing at step 6. And then you will have this TA card. And a great thing about this too is you can use this for other places in Europe as an identification card. And if you are 25, a lot of places you are considered a youth. And so I got to do a lot of experiences for free or reduced price. I got to go to the Louvre in Paris for free because I had a TA that said I was under 25. So really important document to have just for the government and for cool experiences. So before I move to transportation, do any of the other interns have anything to add?
No, thank you, Gretchen. I think the explanation was very thorough and it looks much easier now. Yeah. In the chat, we're having some questions like if the documents and the links are going to be shared. Of course, yeah, reach us out right after the webinar. So we will provide you with all the information and help that you need. Okay. So are you ready now to cover transportation? To
Yes.
talk about that? Okay. So all yours. Go ahead, please.
So transportation, you recognize the Canva format. You are right. Okay, so transportation in Spain. So let me preface this by saying that I was lucky in that where I was placed, I had 2 schools, and the one school I was able to walk to every day, and the other one I typically bused in the morning, and then if the weather was nice, I would walk home. It was a little far, it was maybe 1.5 miles, but it was nice to just walk outside. So walking is always an option, but if you are going further distances, bus was the next most thing that I interacted with. So what you can do is within your city, you can get a Bono bus card, and hopefully you can see it here. So this is mine. I was able to just get on the bus. I handed them 10 euros and asked for a card, and they gave me this. So then each ride, instead of being 2 euros, was, I don't know, maybe 50 cents. You tap it on, and then when it's running out, you just put more money on it. It was very simple, and I used Apple Maps or Google Maps to view the bus routes and the bus stops. But then also I used buses to go longer distances. So for me, it was a bit unfortunate. Going to an airport was oftentimes around a 3-hour bus ride. I took a 6-hour bus to Madrid a couple of times, but I used Omio. It's a website and an app. I used that to book tickets. It shows you trains, planes, and buses. I also even handled transferring tickets a few times, canceling them, changing them. I really liked that service, so I recommend that. If you are in a bigger city like Madrid, get a Metro card that can be used for multiple rides, and you can also get one if you were just visiting. So I visited Madrid, and this is the card that I got. Hopefully you can see it. And I believe it was 10 rides for 7 euros. I purchased it at a kiosk in one of the metro stations. It was really easy. I think I still even have swipes left on it for when I go back. And at the end, maybe April and Madeline will have more details about the metro, but that was my experience with it. So another thing that you can use is a bike. So I recommend visiting Ox Facebook and WhatsApp groups, Facebook Marketplace, and Wayapop, which is kind of like Spanish Craigslist, to find bikes secondhand. Because since a lot of Oxes are coming and going, they are probably selling them, so you don't have to buy a new one. But I would recommend be sure to have a lock. I have heard that bike theft can be a problem. So also be cognizant of what floor you are on in your apartment. And if you have an elevator, a lot of people I knew who did have bikes kept them inside with them. And one of my co-oxes who biked to work would take it within the school grounds inside on the playground so that it was safe and not out on the street. So cars, I know it was hard for me not having my car. I have to drive everywhere in Ohio. So cars are an interesting subject. If your school is further away, ask your teachers if you can carpool with them. I did not have to do this, but my roommate was working further away and she carpooled with her teachers. They would pick her up at a given spot at a certain time every day, take her to school, bring her back from school. I don't think they even asked for any money for that. Some teachers might ask for a share of gas. But if you are further away from school and there's no bus routes, I think that's the best way to go. Now, if you want to rent a car in Spain, you will need an international license that you can usually get from AAA, but it probably will not be valid for the entirety of your stay. So my roommate had a rental car for a while, but it wasn't the whole time. And it was a pretty complex process. Sometimes it seemed like it provided more issues than help. It was fun to go to the beach, but it was a lot of work with the car. Also be aware that a lot of the cars, especially if you're trying to save money, are stick shift. And so my poor roommate was driving around in parking lots trying to learn how to drive a stick shift car, learning from a girl speaking French. So I really don't recommend a car. You can do everything without it. And that's even coming from someone who is not in a huge city. Now, a car thing I do recommend is BlaBlaCar. So if you are going a further distance, BlaBlaCar is a rideshare service at a great price. So essentially what it is someone who is driving will post and say, hey, I'm leaving from this city and going to this airport at this time, and we are arriving at this time. If you want to ride with me, I have 4 open seats, and it's €5 for the ride. And so I use this to get to the airports a few times. Instead of a $50 taxi ride, I paid €2 for a BlaBlaCar. The only problem is that you are at the mercy of the driver. You can DM them and say, hey, could you actually get me 10 minutes sooner? Or hey, instead of the grocery store, could you pick me up at the center? So you can negotiate with them. And if it does work out, it's great and I love it. But you have to work at it to get it to work sometimes. Now, also there are taxis and sometimes Uber. So unlike the US, a lot of cities still use taxis. My city had taxi stands all over. So I saved the WhatsApp number for them and I would call them as if they were an Uber. We did not have Uber, but some of the larger cities do. And then lastly, there are trains. I recommend train over bus. The trains are so comfortable. They're fast. They're great. They can go further distances between regions or within a region if you're in a larger region. I also recommend using the Omeo app to book tickets, especially if they're the longer trip ones. If you're doing shorter trips, there might be easier ways to do that, and potentially Madeline and April have more input since they were in Madrid. But yes, that is all the information on transportation, and I will stop sharing my screen and see if anyone else has anything to say.
Okay, thank you, Gretchen. Very clear. And April and Madeline, since you were placed and living in Madrid, would you like to add something here?
Yeah,
April?
I'd like to touch on quick the metro and the bikes. For those of you who are under 26, I'm not anymore, so unfortunately I cannot get this discount. You have super discounted like Abono Joven, which is like a metro pass that can even bring you all the way to Toledo. It is good for the metro, the bus, the cercanías, all transportation. Right now, I believe there's even on top of it a 60% discount. So it's normally €20 and now it's €8. So it's super, super cheap. I also quickly want Sorry. I also wanted to share a new discovery. There is a Tarjeta Transporte of Madrid app. And a really cool thing is that you can take your Metro card and scan it on the app and recharge it from your phone, which is like super cool. You don't need to go to the kiosk in the metro. You can do it straight on your phone. It's a new discovery and I'm really happy about it. Also on the buses, if for example, you didn't reload your card or you're out of like trips on your card, normally the buses don't have like the option to reload it, but you can use your debit card to tap like €1.50 in Madrid. Also for bikes, there is Bici Madrid, which is like you also have like a card that you can swipe and you load it or you get charged on this card. I've never used it, so maybe Madeline has. I haven't used it, but I see them everywhere. You can rent or like you can use one of the electric bikes. It's an electric bike and you can take it to work or to school. And there's a lot of places where you drop it off. So there's like designated areas where you can pick up a bike and then drop it off. But yeah, that's all I wanted to add.
Okay, thank you for the priceless information and all the new updates as well. Madeleine, anything else you'd like to add here? No? Okay, so since Gretchen covered topics 4 and 5, we're going to move on to the very last one, but not less important, which is a typical day, class preparation, and how life is at a school. But right before April talks about that, we're going to watch a brief video about life at school. Thank you. So as you can see, you're going to help the teachers with language, with grammar, but also like traditions, culture, etc. April, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so your school, the day-to-day at school, what does it look like? As we mentioned previously, before coming to Spain, you should contact your school and see like what time you should come in, if you already have a schedule, what you should bring on your first day, etc. I was placed in 2 schools in Madrid. My very first school, nobody responded. I emailed them, no one responded, but don't worry if you don't get a response. I showed up on the first day and they're like, "Oh, you're here, great." And then they kind of just gave me like a quick orientation, a quick introduction. So even if they don't respond, like, don't worry, you're registered at that school, you're going to be the assistant at that school, show up and they'll welcome you with open arms. My second school, they did respond and they added me into a WhatsApp group, and the coordinator helped me and the other Oxes get to know each other and also gave us more information on things we have to bring on the first day of school. Some of you guys are going to be placed in 2 schools. I had a French language assistant in my first school who was placed in 2 schools, one in Parla in Madrid and one in Leganés, which are two towns, not close to each other. So they just organized on Monday and Wednesday, she would go to Leganés, and Tuesday and Thursday, she would go to Parla. Then the following year, this is another option that can happen. The same French auxiliar, she got placed in our school in Parla and the school right across from our high school. So in my school in Parla, there were 2 high schools, one across the other. She got placed on both of them. So her schedule was no longer like one school Monday, Wednesday, the other school Tuesday, Thursday. She did half the day in one school and the afternoon in the other school. So some hours there and 2 hours there and 2 hours here. So it all depends, but definitely reach out to your school. If, for example, you are assigned to 2 schools and you message them, nobody replies, pick one. I say pick one. Show up on the first day. They're still going to welcome you and you can figure it out from there. It's not the end of the world. What you should prepare for your first day. I always brought a about me presentation. tell them about you, who you are, where you're from. I prepared two, depending on how fast I went through my About Me presentation. I did one about me and about Canada. So if I had some extra time in the classes, like if we went through the About Me really quick, I can also start talking about Canada. So for your first day, just bring a presentation. You're probably going to be talking about yourself the first week in all of your classes and introducing yourself. Also, the type of prep and the materials you bring to the classroom depend on the level that you are going to be assigned. Some of you are going to be in infantil, primary, or you can be in high school, middle school, high school, or FP, which is Formación Profesional, which are more adult students. So it really depends. With the younger kids, lots of games, lots of visual things, tactile things that they can color, they can play with. Also, keep in mind, younger kids have a shorter attention span. So prepare many activities, prepare like backups for your backups, just in case they go super fast and like, I'm bored. You have another one. Of course, again, you're the assistant, you're not the teacher. So you'll always have the help of the teacher, especially in the classroom. But that's just my advice, especially for the younger kids. Lots of activities. I would with the babies, I started teaching them color by numbers. So that would take up like a good 15-20 minutes of them coloring, and then maybe you can show them a video. There are a lot of online resources. I would play a lot of Bamboozles for vocabulary. It's a website. ISL Collective is a good resource for anything. They have a lot of worksheets. They also have video lessons. For high school, I use a lot of ESL Brain. And essentially, also, it depends if the school that you are placed in is bilingual or not bilingual. So my first school was not bilingual. So I was only in English classes. So my main job was speaking and listening in English. So I would go to the classrooms, we would do speaking activities, we do listen activities in English because it was a non-bilingual school. So I would only be with the English teachers. The second school I was placed in was a bilingual school, which means that some of their classes, like history, science, were in English. And sometimes PE as well. Sometimes you can get placed in an English PE class, you can get placed in an English biology class or a history class, and then you will be working with the history teacher, the biology teacher, or the physical education teacher. They normally will guide you and tell you, for example, oh, can you do a presentation about the Cold War? And they'll give you the materials and you can just do a presentation, or they'll be like, this week we're going to look at chapter blah, blah, blah in the biology textbook. Can you read it and like help explain it to the students? For physical education, it's really fun. You have the whole class in English. You teach them like the different vocabulary for games in English, you can also, like in the video, you can also teach them fun games that you played in the US or Canada. But being in a bilingual school and a non-bilingual school, your experience is going to be a bit different. So in terms of hours, you can work or contribute about 12 to 16 hours a week. It does depend if you are in I believe it kind of differs if you're in a primary school versus high school, because high schools always finish around like 2 or 3, unless they have seventh period, maybe like 3:30, almost 4. But sometimes in elementary schools, they have like split day and they have like a big lunch period. Most of the times, most of my friends who were in primary schools say that their schools were accommodating and kind of like scheduled all of their classes like the first half of the day so they don't have to stay the whole day. I have most experience in high school. In high school, the last school that I was in, I remember I think I had maybe 14 hours of class and 2 hours of prep. Another thing that our coordinator did was, say for example, we had extra hours, or maybe she could only schedule me into 12 hours or 13 hours, and I had like a couple extra hours where they couldn't fit me into a class in the schedule, I also gave English classes to some of the other teachers in the school. So I would have conversation classes with I had conversations classes with a philosophy teacher and a math teacher, other faculty members who were interested in practicing their English in the school. I dedicated an hour to kind of talk to them. So that was also really fun. So for most of you guys are starting October. So if we're thinking about if we are thinking about class prep, Halloween, Thanksgiving, they're going to ask you to do a presentation about Halloween and Thanksgiving. 100%. They've asked me to draw the Mayflower every year. And I mentioned I'm Canadian. At first I was like, what's the Mayflower? It's a ship. I learned this. And I had to present American Thanksgiving, and I was not that qualified. But every year, Halloween, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day, St. Patrick's Day, just to name a few, be ready to be ready to talk about that. Someone mentioned dress code. So in Spain, it's very relaxed. My Asian mom told me to basically show up my first day in like business casual, and I found out that was way too overdressed. A jeans and the t-shirt is very, very common. Let me see. I have a couple other questions that I have prepared. Yes. Okay. So how much time do you dedicate to class prep? So like I mentioned, I would dedicate around 2 hours for class prep. Of course, it depends. It depends because my first year, I have to be honest, I dedicated a lot of time to class prep. But after a couple months, after experience, you get into a routine. You know better websites where to get information. You know better websites to get activities. You can do the classes and the activities faster and easier. So I say it's definitely like with anything a learning curve. At the beginning, you kind of spend a bit more time preparing your classes, you get into the groove of things, and then you learn how to create your lesson plans and you get to know your students better. You know if they're going to be unruly, you know what they're going to like, what they're not going to like. In terms of materials, I was lucky that I never brought any materials. In high school, it was very easy. I would use a computer, I would project maybe a video, or I would print out papers and lessons, activities to give to the students. In primary and elementary, like I mentioned, they're a bit more tactile. So you may want to bring toys. Maybe you might, when I taught infantile for a bit, so the babies, I brought flashcards from Canada, and that was really great. So like apple, banana, red, blue, those are also I recommend for the younger kids. And for those of you who have no teaching experience, I would say don't worry, because like we mentioned before, you're the assistant, you're not the teacher, and the teachers and the faculty at the school are there to help you and guide you, and they will kind of essentially they will tell you what to do. They'll tell you, okay, this week we want to do a listening, we're doing chapter 3, we're talking about sports, we're talking about jobs, and then you can like invent things that way. I think I have mentioned almost everything. I might be forgetting something because there's so many things that go on every day. But if Madeline and Gretchen want to chime in if they have any tips and tricks, greatly appreciate it.
Gretchen or Madeleine, would you like to just jump in and add something here? Gretchen, yeah.
Yeah, something that I did is that I brought some picture books with me because I did have infantile and primary school, but I found I read through those very quickly. So then actually what I started doing is I was using my library account back in Ohio and getting digital ebooks that then I would put up on the smart boards. And so they're big, everyone can see them, and I would hold them in my account and choose different ones. And the kids loved them. I don't think they knew anything I was saying, but I read them click, clack, moo. And for weeks then afterwards, I came in and they'd point at me and go, click, clack, moo, click, clack, moo. I'm like, yeah, good. So I thought that was something really useful that doesn't take up any space in your suitcase. You can switch it out really easily week by week, and it's free. So that was one of my top things to use.
Thank you for sharing. Madeleine, would you like to add anything here?
Yeah, I also have one quick tip that I found out halfway through was Canva Education was also a really great tool. There are a lot of templates, and we can get it for free too. So also another great tool to use.
Okay, thank you. So thank you very much for your priceless contributions. Everything was like impeccable when you were delivering the information, and I'm sure they're going to appreciate it a lot. Actually, we can see in the chat a lot of positive comments, and they are really, really grateful. So now we're going to move on to the third part. Part 3 has 2 different sections. Okay, in section 1, as I introduced at the very beginning, we have a special guest, Jane Stry, from the U.S. Embassy in Spain, who's going to talk about safety, protection, and well-being. So, Jane, are you ready?
Ready. Thank you, Juan.
Okay, so all yours. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to say, I was following some of the comments in the chat box, and you are all so amazing. You're going to León, to Zaragoza, to Ibiza, to Melilla, to Madrid. I mean, how incredible is that? Congratulations to everybody, truly. This is an important organization, an important thing that you're going to be partaking in. Really, congratulations. And you're in very good hands with the Nalcap team. I just would like you all to know that we at the embassy are also here to support you. I work for the Department of State, and one of the Department of State's top priorities is the protection of U.S. citizens overseas. So if anybody here is not a U.S. citizen, our advice is good for everybody, but our services, of course, are only for U.S. citizens. And so almost everything that I'll be saying is good for Canadians and anyone from any country, really. And first, I'd like to point out that whenever you leave your home country, there are 2 very important things to take with you. One of them, as Juan mentioned at the beginning of the session, is medication, and another one is your passport. About medication, Juan said that if there is anything that you take regularly, you should bring it with you. Absolutely. My own personal recommendation is to bring enough for the duration of your stay. Just to be on, you can get medication here in Spain, but it requires going to a Spanish doctor to get a prescription and then purchasing it at a Spanish pharmacy. 99% of the time, it's the exact same medication you would get in the United States, but it just is easier if you have it with you and if you brought enough for your stay. Keep in mind that nobody can send medication to you from the United States or from Canada. There is a bilateral agreement prohibiting sending medication, even non-prescription medication, in the mail. So if you run out, please don't ever ask someone to send it to you. It will never reach you, just to avoid that frustration. And then passports. Please be careful with your passport when you're traveling to Spain. Most airports will ask you to show, when you're boarding the flight for Spain, to show your passport as identification. And so you have your boarding pass or your phone, you have your passport, your luggage, you're excited, you're getting on the airplane, and people have a tendency to take everything and stuff it in the seat pocket in front of them, get comfortable, get situated, put their luggage in the overhead compartment, and that passport seems to stay in that seat pocket. What happens when you arrive at your destination? Again, everybody's excited. There's a lot of action. You're grabbing your luggage. You want to turn on your phone, let people know you've arrived. And if you get off that airplane and leave your passport behind, you cannot get back on the airplane to go and get your passport. And I don't know why, but it seems like anything that goes in that seat pocket it just goes into a black hole and it disappears. And it really is a tragedy because you've not yet entered Spain. If you don't have your passport, you cannot enter Spain. What happens most of the time is you get held at the airport until the next available flight and returned back to the place that you came from. Occasionally, people cry and finagle in and manage to come to the embassy to get a new passport. But most of the time, and we see this very often, people get stopped at the airport if they don't have their passport and turned around and sent back home. And it's a really sad start to this adventure. So please, when you're getting off that airplane, make sure you have your passport. Make sure you have it in a safe location. And after you go through customs and immigration, make sure you put your passport in a safe location. Once you're in Spain, if something happens to your passport, we can help you at the embassy. But that's part of a talk that I'll give to you when I see you here in person, once you're here in Spain. Just please remember you must have that in order to get into the country. And also make sure you have enough validity on your passport. You still have time to get a new one if it's going to be expiring while you're in Spain. It should be valid for the duration of your stay. If it does expire, like I said, we can help you at the embassy to get a new one. And there's something I'd like to ask you all to do before you leave the United States. And if you could show my slide, please. I have a slide that explains the STEP program. STEP stands for Smart Traveler Enrollment Program. And there is a QR code where you can go directly to the website and the name of the website where you can create an account for yourself. And thank you for posting the link. Create an account for yourself to let us know at the embassy that you're going to be in Spain. This is extremely important. This is the most important thing you can do anytime you travel overseas. First of all, it helps us know where to locate you in case we need to locate you in an emergency. You can put an emergency contact. You could put your local address in Spain. You could put the school where you're working at. Anything that you want to put in there that is helpful for us in the event of an emergency. But most importantly, in the event of an emergency, we send an email alert to everybody enrolled in STEP. So in the unlikely event of something that might put Americans at danger, we send out an email that says, this could happen at this location, at this time, please don't go there. We send out just very brief messages, and thankfully this rarely happens, but the idea is that we want people to stay safe. If there's ever something we need you to know for your own safety, for your own protection, we're going to send it out through STEP. If you're not enrolled in STEP, you would not receive those emergency alerts, okay? And if you all have people back home who worry, everybody has somebody back home who worries. They can also sign up for STEP to receive the emergency alerts. They don't actually have to be traveling. There's a way on the website that says, I'm not traveling, but I'd like to receive the alerts. And the STEP program during the month of October is going to be upgraded. And so when you enroll, you will receive instructions on how to upgrade your enrollment with STEP as well. And you might have heard that there are presidential elections coming up this year in the United States. If you are interested in voting in those presidential elections, now is the time to request your absentee ballot. Please go to your local polling station, probably your city hall, to request your absentee ballot. Most states are sending those by email, so you don't have to have a physical address. If they do ask you for an address, you could put your school's address, but just to be sure that if you'd like to vote, that you do receive your ballot. If you forget to do that, you can do it online once you're in Spain. However, there might not be enough time for you to be able to get your ballot and to return that and have it counted. Okay. If you would like to deposit your ballot once you've cast your vote with us at the embassy, we can send that back to the United States for you. Very happy to do that. And I always encourage everyone to exercise their right to vote. And I'd like to say that the program that you're a part of, Nalcap, is outstanding, and they have a great support system in place for you. But we are also here for you. At the embassy, we have a team of trained professionals who can help you with just about any situation you might find yourself in Spain. Please just first enroll in the STEP program, and I'll be very happy to meet you all once you arrive in Spain. Please just know we're here for you, and take care.
So thank you, Jane. Thank you so much for attending today's webinar, and especially and above all for the useful remarks and all the information provided. So now we're going to move to the second section of part 3, which is the very last segment, when my fellow education advisors are going to be with me here, and we're going to pull out some questions from the Q&A section. As I said earlier, it's impossible to answer the hundreds or thousands of questions we're receiving, but we'll try to cover just a few. And then please also remember to get in touch with us via email for further information, okay? We are more than happy and willing to help you out. So we have Josu, as I mentioned earlier, who's in LA. Hello, Josu. We also have Olga. She's in Ottawa, Canada, our fellow advisor there, and also Luis, who's in Seattle, Washington State. So, Olga, hello. Is there any question that you would like to share with us so we can provide the viewers with some information? You're muted. Can you please just unmute your microphone?
Hello, everybody. Sorry. Let's start with one question that some Canadian Nalcappers have asked. I have a Canadian passport, but also an European. Do we have to apply for my background? We suggest you request the Canadian Police Information Center about the background check. If you have European Union citizenship, in addition to Canadian citizenship, and have been living in that country for the last 6 months, you will need one background check from the country or countries to be certified by an apostille legalization and translated by a certified translator. Je vais parler la question en français. J'ai un passeport canadien, aussi européen. Dois-je demander une vérification de mes antécédents? Nous vous suggérons de demander la vérification des antécédents au CIP, Centre d'information de la police canadienne. Si vous avez la citoyenneté d'un pays de l'Union européenne, en plus de la citoyenneté canadienne, et que vous vivez dans ces pays pendant depuis 6 mois, vous aurez besoin d'une vérification d'antécédents ou des pays dans lesquels vous avez vécu. Dans tous les cas, les antécédents doivent être d'abord certifiés par une apostille, légalisation, comme on a déjà dit, et ensuite traduit par un traducteur certifié. Ça, c'était la question formulée.
Okay, thank you so much, Olga. At the very beginning, we experienced like a little bit of faulty connection, but not to worry because the viewers are asking that they were missing some information, but we will share it with you. Okay, so not to worry. In French and also in English, we will provide you with the question and the right answer as well. So thank you so much, Olga, for your contribution. Merci. And now we're going to move on to Josu. Josu, is there any question you would like to share with us, please?
Hello, Juan. Can you hear me?
Perfectly, yes.
Oh, hello, Juan from LA. Thank you so much with all your work. I mean, you did such a good job. We are learning so much. You are sharing so many experiences, so many questions answered. I think you're doing great. Thank you so much. And we are still, we have several questions regarding the health insurance provided by the program. And they are asking who can help them with this. So the answer is that for all questions concerning medical insurance, you need, everybody needs to email their regional education offices, okay? So for any question regarding medical insurance, you need to contact your regional education offices. And probably you are wondering, where can I find their emails or how to contact those regional education offices? So please, you will find their addresses on our website under the Contact Us section. Okay, so you will find the regional education offices in Spain, their contacts under the Contact Us section on our website. Thank you so much, Juan. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Josu. Yeah, there's also like a request or a question in the chat as regards the vaccination card. Please, for those details, apart from the general information, which is already provided on our Nalcap website, but also the different sections, feel free to reach us out, send an email, and we will provide further details and information whenever required. Now we're going to move on to Luis. Luis, is there any question you would like to share with us from the Q&A section, please?
Thank you very much. I'm going to refer to the very last question that just landed. And it says, what should we expect on October the 1st? Is there an orientation? All right. So, and the answer is, before starting your assignment, you will need to attend an orientation course scheduled and provided by your regional education office in Spain. You will receive information about orientation from this office. The orientation course may be held at the end of September or early October and may be offered during various days. Each regional education office offers its own orientation course with different schedules.
Thank you so much, Luis.
Thank you.
Thanks for the answer. Josu, any other question, please?
Yes, we have several questions regarding who pays the travel costs to and from Spain. We are receiving this question also on our social media. So it is actually the language assistant, the one that has to pay for it. The program doesn't include the travel expenses. The insurance is included, but not travel expenses. And that's all from LA, Juan. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much. There are still some other questions in the chat, like the vaccination, immunization, etc. We will get back to you and we'll provide you with the answers, okay? So this is the end of today's webinar. We hope it was useful for you and we provided clarification and information as well. So thank you, everyone. Thanks to the Nalcap team, of course, for your hard work. Thank you to all our collaborators today, like the language assistants, the Oxys, also Jane, our technical support provided by Eliseo. Thank you very much as well. And before we say goodbye, we wish you a very happy summer, everyone, and safe travels to Spain. But to sum up, I would like also to thank all the former advisors and coordinators who left an incredible legacy behind. So Nalcap, of course, is a prestigious program. There's a lot of hard work behind, and we hope everything goes okay for you. So heartfelt thanks to everyone. Thank you so much.